Ice water is the goated drink, dude. The absolute goated drink. And it is so very pretty out tonight. What is up? What it do? What it do? Hello, 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 hello. Howdy. You like the FF episode? Good. Yeah, it was a fun one. It's always fun to do those. I'll tell you what, man. Well, maybe I'll wait till a few more people get in and I'll talk a little bit more about two-man episodes or two-man content within the company. Hope you've had a good day. I have. Thank you. I've had a really good day. A very pretty day today. Hello, Owen. Looking good, thanks. Feeling good today. Feeling good. For sure. So I took a pretty large dose of psilocybin yesterday. Magic mushrooms, for those that don't know what psilocybin is. And it was a trip, man. No joke. It was a whole ass journey that I had to go through. I remember took them. Then I came out here and I started an episode. And I started to feel the front edge of the trip come along. Typically, and this is usually when I take a lower dose of mushrooms, it'll just be kind of a pleasant, warm feeling that grows and grows, and you know, the little edges of my perception will get fuzzy a little bit. And I'll be able to, you know, trip a little socially. But yesterday, I eat them raw or hide it in something. This batch of mushrooms that I had came all ground up, like not finely ground like a powder, but like all like chunked up. And I was like, man, how am I gonna eat this? It's gonna be like eating a fistful of sawdust. And so I threw it in a glass of water. I made a small glass of water, and I put a bunch in there, and I swirled it around and made this like slurry, and then just like down the hatch it went, like oatmeal or something. It was disgusting, but what are you gonna do? It was work. Trust me, it would have been worse trying to. I was able to swallow 90% of it. You know, only like 10% ended up lingering around in my mouth. So, a slurry, dude. Dusty mushroom slurry. But I was sitting out here doing this, and all of a sudden I started to feel very negative about you, about like the audience I was looking at. I was like, I started to get mad almost. And so I just turned it off. Because I just felt like, fuck this. And that's when it really began. As it was riding up to the peak, the trip became me being just like hypercritical of myself. I remember I was sitting out here like I am now, and I looked at my feet. I'm out in my backyard, I'm barefoot. I was like, oh, fucking disgusting. Look at you. And then that became like, it's just disgusting to be me. And it was all this like hyper negative self thought that I experience as a depressive came flooding in super strong. No, I didn't trip on the stream really. I just took down the video. And yeah, I shut off the fucking stream because I wasn't gonna be able to sit and look at it. I remember looking at my hands and just going like, oh, and they just looked all just like gnarled and withered, and I started having these thoughts like, man, you're just like 1 foot in the fucking grave. Look at you. Like your whole meat prison has like degraded, and listen, this is what you're left with. You know, this is you now. And it just, and it got to a point where it was like, undeniable. And I remember I started to like feel a little panicky because it was just coming it was so strong, and all of, you know, started to feel so overwhelmed with the input that I would close my eyes, but that would make it worse. Like, you know, you instinctively close your eyes because you don't want to accidentally look at something that's going to make you feel that way. And when I closed my eyes, it was fractals. Just like, you know, heavy closed eye visuals. Fractal as fuck, and just moving constantly. Bubbles within bubbles, and shapes within shapes, and spirals, and moving, flowing stuff. And with this came these not destructive, I wasn't like suicidal, but these really just self-deprecating thoughts. And I remember at one point I was desperately looking for something to like distract me from what I was experiencing. And it's like the trip was like, no. You're gonna go through this. I would put on like, I tried to find some music, and I wanted to just lay down. So I went in my bed and I just laid there. And I put music on. And my brain was just like, turn that off. How much did I take? A lot. Looking back on it, it was probably the single biggest dose of psilocybin I've ever taken. I didn't weigh it out, but it was I took a lot. The music was like grating. I remember putting on this like really, like, I searched in my desperation like calm music for sleep or whatever, and I wanted to find some of that like, you know, electronic kind of spacey, you know, that's all very like major tones and calming. I put that stuff on, and I remember it sounding like you ever heard like a big steel squeaky fence grate open? It was like, it's like that. And so I started looking for like things to listen to. I was like, maybe I'll listen to like an Alan Moore talk or something. And so I found this like 6-hour Alan Moore talk that he gave about consciousness and the 4 ways to find the center. And I wanted to just skip into it so that I could start with no context. And so I skipped into it, and Alan Moore was like, when doctors have given up on a patient, it's not that they've decided that they will no longer try to save that patient's life. It's that they are surrendering to the idea of complete and total death. And then that patient is kept in a state of torture, a beneficent torture, as their body is slowly pumped full of drugs and hormones and tubes in order to prolong the natural process of death. And I was like, no, 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 no. My brain was just, it's not going to let me happen. Did he actually say this? Yes. Yeah, you can find it. It's an Alan Moore quote. And a beneficent torture. I was like, oh, no, 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 no. Thanks, Megan Fox. No, thanks for the sandwich. And everything I tried to watch was like that. I remember I listened to these guys, a couple of different guys that do like long form essays, not essays really, but just like these kind of like deep dives into Warhammer 40k lore. And that wasn't going to happen either. That's 40k lore is horrifying and filled with death and evisceration and shit, right? And I remember at some point I just surrendered because it hadn't even peaked yet. I remember I came out here again, got up out of the bed, I came out here again, and I smoked a cigarette, and those feelings of negativity had just seeped into every little part of my consciousness. It's like I'm putting this forward. It might have been Alan Watts. Sorry, I get Alan Moore mixed up. I know Alan Moore is the guy that wrote what you call it, like the Watchmen, right? So yeah, it might have been Alan Watts. I always get them mixed up. Oh yeah, I've done that. I just dove into a Warhammer lore vids, yeah. So anyway, I finally just gave myself over to it. I was like, well, this is going to be me. Because, I'm going to be tripping for about 6 hours, so fuck it. And I laid there and I just closed my eyes and I let it happen. I let this feeling wash over me. And in the fractals, I lost myself. Experienced ego death. Where there was no Paul, there was no me. I was gone out of my body, and I was there amongst the fractals. I was there amongst the swirling mass of imaginary things in my head. And it was only then when I stopped fighting it that it started to become pleasant at the peak. So as I was peaking, I gave myself up. I said, I can't struggle against this anymore. This is just going to happen. I'm going to lay and experience it. And as soon as I was able to let myself go in that way, it was like a switch flipped. And the rest of the trip was just amazing. And once I came through that part of it, with a little help from Amelia, who just kind of laid with me, it was beautiful. And I felt an immediate lifting of all of that stuff I was talking about earlier, that negativity, that critique and self-criticism, that nasty feeling about not belonging anywhere in the world, because that was what it turned into. It turned into like, oh, you're in this body, and this, you just as an entity are fucking disgusting. It went from that to like, just existing is disgusting. Like, you don't fit anywhere. You shouldn't be here. You shouldn't, you don't work in this world. It went from a deep-seated feeling of that to this feeling of ultimate release and well-being as I let myself go. And that's really what was causing. See, this is the fucking crazy thing about psychedelics. that struggle that I was having mentally against that initial tide of feelings was what was causing all of the negativity. Because that was my mind attempting to hold on to the way that I have been. Like, one of the reasons I took the dose was because I've been trapped in like a real deep depression for a while. You know, just, I'm always kind of depressed, but I've just been so utterly sunken into that. And it was like my mind, my consciousness, my personality was trying desperately at the front end of this trip to hold on to all of that. And the trip was like, okay, you want to hold on to it? Here it is. And I didn't perceive it as that at the time. It was after the trip had gone over the peak, so to speak, that I really made the connection. It was like as I fought against that feeling and allowed the anxieties that I normally experience to intrude on it, and allowed my normal thought process to intrude on it, and as I fought to maintain that grip on my reality, that's what was causing this horrible negativity. And it was like holding up a mirror. It really is like holding up a mirror and you see yourself for the first time in that negativity. And looking back on it now, I was just like, whoa, no human being should feel that way about themselves. And that's really what it showed me. It showed me like, this is how you feel about yourself all the time. And you run from it, you distract yourself from it, you push through it, you ignore it to the best of your ability. But this is you all the time, all day, every day. Here it is. And once I started accepting it, I stopped fighting against it and just accepted it. The storm calmed. And I experienced ego death. And I floated soundlessly in world. It actually wasn't soundless. Once I gave into it, I started having auditory hallucinations. Where in my closed eye, fractal kind of nothingness, I would hear these bells. These tones like hard to like, they were just, I don't know how to explain that, but auditory hallucinations, visual hallucinations to the extreme. Opening my eyes, it was like the world was crawling. And it was during that this insane sense of calm came over me. I went from being wound up and asking myself, like, how long is this trip going to be? I wish this trip was over. I wish it would just stop. I don't want to feel this way anymore. I shouldn't have taken so much. I shouldn't have done this. I shouldn't have done fucking just this ball of anxiety. When I let that go, it was like music. And it never came back. It just coasted over the peak. It slowly started to come down out of it. And when I started to come down out of it, I felt like a different person. Not a different person, but a different outlook.
You had a blanket pulled off from your head or something.
Yeah. Like it was, I don't know. It's just a very different way. Like it was like a weight was lifted. Mm-hmm. And I realized that I carry a lot of that with me. A lot of like that, the weight of that kind of negative self-thinking. And when it was released off of my shoulders, it was just like, oh. Remember on the downslope, I came out here. I took 2 steps outside, and it was like the world was a different place than when I left it. Because remember, I said at the beginning of the trip, I came back out a couple of times, smoked, and I just couldn't look at anything because everything disgusted me. The grass was all dead. There's dinosaur poop all over it, and there's just the walls, just are this old 90s stucco shit that was crawling everywhere. I couldn't find anything that I liked to look at. I couldn't let myself look at anything. And then when I came back out here, all I wanted to do was look at everything. It was like a switch had flipped. And I could see that beauty again.
Man, I wish those birds would come by while you were on the down slope that we saw the other day.
What, the little baby birds?
Yeah.
Yeah, little fledglings.
You didn't get any animals when you were down sloping.
Mm-mm. You feel like that weight you carry around is needless, like you're stressed out about nothing. It's a little simplified when you put it that way, but that's part of it. It's like my brain is almost in a mode, and I know that this will change because it's a serotonin reset in your brain. It's a change in your brain chemistry that lasts for several days when you trip, especially when you trip like that. But all day today, I've been pretty quiet today, and it's not like I've had like the most wonderful outgoing day of my life, but I haven't once felt that way about myself today. It's almost like I can't. And I haven't once been able to spiral out of control into worry or anxiety today. It's almost like I can't. And that's cool. Yeah, my pain is self-chosen. Good old Lane Staley. Isn't the next line, though, at least that's what I thought it to be? My pain is self-chosen, at least that's what I thought it to be. Something like that. Loved your latest DFF, Paul. Never knew about Rasta. I never knew much about it either, really. I knew a little bit of stuff. I knew about Haile Selassie before going into it. But that's about it. And I really don't think I gave it like a real deep dive in 30 minutes either. I think I covered kind of like a basic overview of it. But it's another one of those subjects that's just as deep as you want it to be. It's a lot of figures in the movement that I didn't talk about, and a lot of controversies and stuff that I didn't really get a chance to talk about. Internal controversy and external controversy when it comes to that sort of thing.
It's just really hard to introduce religion without dedicating a lot of time to Haile Selassie.
It's hard to talk about that religion without understanding who Haile Selassie was and why he was positioned that way by the Rasta community.
And that took up like half the episodes.
Half the episode was learning about Haile Selassie. Yeah.
You can't just go like, oh, he was an Ethiopian emperor, the end.
Why can't you send a super chat? Two people have sent them already.
Tech support days are over, man.
Yeah, I think I can't. Yeah, I don't know why you can't send a super chat, but I've gotten two small super chats during this so far, so.
You ain't got no money, bro.
Yeah, maybe your card is, overcharged or something. Or maybe it's what you're trying to put, like maybe you're putting something that YouTube deems abusive or whatever.
Or currency you don't accept.
Or yeah, maybe it's a currency thing. Yeah. Yeah, a bunch of people showing it works. Everybody send a super chat right now and show them that it works.
Yeah, be like Cloud Massacre and drop them 99 cents.
Yep. you notice a difference between psilocybin strains? To be honest with you, I've done a lot of mushrooms, but not a lot since people started to really know like strains of it. Most of the mushroom trips that I've taken, I took well before my 20s, and those were just like you got what you got, what you got. You know what I mean? A lot of them were found, like the ones that I would eat back when I was a teenager. A lot of them were found up in the foothills on cow patties and shit, because psilocybin loves a cow patty. And so people would go up into the foothills onto these like big ranch lands at night and flip cow patties and get
It's
these.
probably dangerous.
Yeah, probably. I never did it, but that's how the people I bought them from, you know, got them for the most part. They weren't like shipped all over the country or whatever. It was very regional. So I don't know what. Yeah, but I am aware that there are different types of psilocybin mushroom, and that they can have different types of effects. New study came in showing a link to depression and amino acid called prioline found in grass-fed beef and pasture-raised chicken. Oh. One more tip for the road. Our union, UFCW 555, sent a class action suit against our company, Safeway, for lying about implementing our new contract. Cool. Hey, Paul, tomorrow I'm going to have going to a Pride event. That's my first public endeavor as a trans woman. Your Trans Trailblazers episode is super inspiration. Thanks. P.S. Super chats work. Hey, that's awesome, man. Congrats for that. I'm sure that's going to feel amazing. And, you know, that's a really great environment to do that. And, you know, because it's just nothing but acceptance there. And so that's wonderful. I'm happy to hear that for you.
You haven't ever gone to one, have you?
I went to a Pride when I was young.
Oh, yeah.
I was in my late teens. I went to a Pride in San Francisco. But not as like a bisexual guy, just as a
like as an experience.
Yeah,
or
as an,
whatever.
I was in San Francisco when it was going on, and I experienced it. So yeah.
You weren't repping the perk.
No. Not externally at the very least.
Dude, it was funny when I went with my dad, because we went into some Starbucks and had a bathroom right in front of that Starbucks. We were waiting for the party to start. It was like the most BDSM float. We were just sitting there staring at that for like 15 minutes.
That's funny.
I was like, I don't know, like 14 or something.
Oh boy. How's your Elden Ring playthrough coming along? My apologies. I haven't played Elden Ring, and I probably won't. I'm not a huge fan of the Souls games. Yeah, I definitely won't buy Elden Ring until it comes down in price. Like, I refuse to pay $59.99 for it. And that's what they're trying to get for it on Steam still.
I saw a new Final Fantasy trailer drop today. Final Fantasy 16.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Cool. I'll have to look it up. What's your favorite high you've ever felt from any drug? I mean, psychedelics are the most meaningful type of feeling that I've ever gotten taking a drug. I mean, you get giggly and goofy on other drugs, but you know, you can't really have an experience like you do on psychedelics on any other type of drug. I didn't like Souls either, but I loved Elden Ring. What a romp. A romp? Whoa. A romp. Man, I didn't know it was a romp. No, I might get it and try it, but it'll be after it's on sale for like $20 or something a couple years from now. I used to try and explain psychedelics to friends that never did anything like that. I tell them it's like taking your brain and placing all of its parts in cubby holes and rearranging them. I guess, maybe. It's impossible to explain. I was trying to explain it to Amelia. And she, she's just never done psychedelics, doesn't want to mess with them. And you know, you just can't. There's not words for what you experience in that, and the words that you use to describe it they all fall short. I'm leaving next week to England to work offshore wind turbines. Be there for 6 months. Should be fun. Whoa, that's cool. Well, enjoy your time away.
It's like the lighthouse.
Yeah. Yeah, I've always kind of envied people that have got jobs like that. I've always thought that, like, maybe in a different life, I could have worked that type of job where it's like I just go away and it's just me and a few other people that I work with, and your whole life is kind of centered around that work for part of the year, you know. Oil rig work and like fishing work and just anything on a boat, really. I know for a fact I would have done well on boats. I've got good sea legs and I don't get seasick. So I've got whatever the genetic markers are for good sea travel and shit. So I've always thought like working on a boat would be cool. Just for that sense of remoteness.
Yeah.
And that feeling of going away and coming home, you know?
Yeah, I had a friend whose dad did, he's a tugboat captain and go up to like Alaska for months at a time and shit.
Yeah, I've always thought that would be like a fun life, but I just never was, I never had the opportunity to, you know anybody that did anything like that. I didn't have an in with anything like that, and I really wouldn't know how to start looking for a job like that. You know?
Yeah, it's not like they usually put those on Indeed and shit.
Right.
Especially not when you were first looking for work. There was like a little sign on the
Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, I lived pretty far inland. Lived in California, but way inland in California, and so it wasn't like I was around a lot of sea ports or anything. Be living on a ship for 2 weeks and then back on shore for 2 weeks off. So it's 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off for 6 months. That's pretty dope. Yeah, that's a pretty sweet little deal. But I guess, yeah, if you're working, basically you're working 24/7. Like, you're not, right? You're sleeping on the boat, you're eating on the boat, you're taking your breaks on the boat, but you can't go wherever you want. Like, you're still there at the behest of the company. And if something goes wrong, it's all hands on deck, you know? So you're like on call, basically. Got that fucking Alice in Chains song stuck in my head now. The Pain is Self-Chosen song. I don't even really like that song much, but it is one of the songs that I can tolerate best by Alice in Chains. I've got this kind of historical dislike for Alice in Chains. Lane Staley's voice was often very grating to me. And I think it just kind of reminded me too much of like AC/DC and that era of rock and roll. Remember I had this friend, my friend Derek. He was in the band that lived across the street from me, Spread Needle. He was the bass player for Spread Needle, and he and I were pretty good friends. And I remember Lane Staley died, and Lane Staley was like his fucking idol. And I remember he was all busted up about it, and I just couldn't care less. I was such an asshole about it. I was just like, lame Staley. I mean, just, I'm not talking about like them being all like their songs don't really sound much like AC/DC songs. The vocal style, that kind of like real high pitched, kind of screechy shit. I like Man in the Box. which was the first Alice in Chains song I heard. I remember hearing that song and going like, oh man, I bet this band is going to be great. And then they came out with that Rooster song. It's I hate that. I cannot tell you how I hate that song. That song, more than any song that I can remember in the 90s. And remember, the 90s was like the radio era. I can't remember any other song being abused that much by the radio. That song played fucking every hour on the hour, I shit you not. It had to. Because every time I would jump in to the car, I'd have, my shit would be tuned into the local rocks. I can't remember what it was called. The 95.7 The Fox was our classic rock station. But I think it was, I can't remember what the fucking, but it was always, the alternative station that played hip hop and, like Nirvana type music. And fuck, I swear, it was like a curse. I would get a feeling in my chest. Like I'd be walking out to my car and I could hear the song. Hey, come just up the roof down. And I'm like, no, that's not gonna be on. And I'd turn it on and then, oh yeah! I'm like, no! It's like my head was picking up the broadcast sometimes, man. It just felt like that song haunted me.
Are you so glad you can skip now?
Oh man, dude. Yeah, the game has changed when it comes to music.
We had like Sirius XM was like a free trial when we got our car lease, and it's like, why would you go back to that style of thing where you're stuck with whatever song is playing and tuning between channels and shit?
Like because Spotify exists now, or like other music thing like YouTube Music or whatever you use, because that exists now, I don't even really know why people pay for satellite.
Yeah.
Because you're still like,
I guess some people don't like the choice. They want to.
Yeah, it's like because you can curate your own list and have just songs that you like, You ever do a DFF equals Hedberg or DFF equals Hicks, especially Hicks, saying he's one of, if not, your favorites? Yeah, I don't know, man. Mitch Hedberg would be an interesting one to do, but it's really hard to do his biographies when you can't show their comedy. Mitch Hedberg was known and beloved as a deadpan, absurdist comedian. And you can't tell Mitch Hedberg's jokes and get the same effect. You can tell them, but you can't perform them. And you can't really show tons and tons of Mitch Hedberg. Same thing goes with Bill Hicks. I would love to do a Bill Hicks thing, but to do a Bill Hicks thing and not show any of his legendary rants, any of his legendary bits, to try and relay that to somebody who's not into Bill Hicks without showing it them, it's like, all right, well,
you can't really like fuck with it either. Like it wouldn't land the same if you like tried double speed backwards or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. I just don't think it would work, unfortunately. DFF equals outsider music. Yeah, I mean, the problem is that a lot of outsider music that you'd want to show, like, because there's been a lot of outsider bands that have broken into the mainstream, and a lot of people don't even know like anything about them or have only heard one song. Like Wesley Willis got popular in the late 90s, early 2000s. Ween is another great example of outsider rock and roll. Like just the stuff that's like weird, that's made by very strange people, that doesn't adhere to the normal rules of songwriting. It's not self-serious. It's not a fun beer drinking romp. It's some combination of both with a bunch of comedy layered over it and somebody's id really working itself out through the music. One of Vimeo exclusive Patreon episodes, because Vimeo, and you can look this up, I think about like a year ago, decided that it was going to just milk the people, because we were already paying Vimeo. We paid Vimeo a monthly fee to keep our videos there, our special videos that, like shit that wouldn't go up on YouTube or whatever the fuck, so that our patrons had access to that stuff. We were already paying them a fee, and it was already pretty pricey, like yearly price. And they basically came to everybody. Like a bunch of people were doing the same thing. They came to everybody that was paying them and went like, "Oh, your bill's gone from a couple $100 a year to a couple $1,000 a year, like close to 10,000 a year." And we were like, no, no, it hasn't. We quit. Like, there's no way.
And they were like, all right, well, we're just going to yank everything.
Yeah, they were like, well, if you don't want to sign up for a new thing, then everything comes down on this date. And we were like, okay. So, yeah, you can actually look this up. A bunch of people got left out in the cold. I really think they're trying to shut down Vimeo. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, if we're going to keep it open, we're going to just keep it open for these whales that are going to pay us some immense amount of money for the thing. Mm-hmm. We'll make it a more premium type service and get rid of everybody else.
Just corporate shit.
Corporate shit, yeah. It really was. It looked like it was something that was priced more like you'd send, like, here you go, Shell Corp.
Put your HR shit on it or something.
Right. You can use Vimeo to store all your internal videos and your HR training stuff, and we'll handle all that for you for $10,000 a year. Like, oh, that's reasonable, yes. It's like, we're like, no, no, that's not reasonable.
Patreon were such assholes, too. Fucking, like, oh, look, it's so easy. You can link all your shit, and
yeah,
it's so awesome.
Yeah, Patreon just kept right on selling everybody on Vimeo. It's like, no. So yeah, we're really kind of without a host for that type of shit now.
Yeah, it's like even Pornhub has copyright rules.
Oh yeah, you can't just like, and like I really don't think I would be violating copyright to show a few clips of Bill Hicks or a few clips of Mitch Hedberg doing his comedy. I don't know, if I just sat there uninterrupted and uploaded a whole thing, but for the purposes of commentary and critique and, you know, historical accuracy, if I showed some Mitch Hedberg bits, I don't really find that to be a violation of fair use. But the whole Digital Millennium Copyright Act doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. Fair use is thrown out the door because that gets considered after they start the legal action of taking down your video. Mm-hmm. So your video comes down first, and then if you want the fair use of that clip to be considered, you have to go into a lawsuit with them, basically. Like, you have to file a formal appeal, and if that's rejected by YouTube, then your next recourse of action is to enter into a lawsuit with whoever it was that owns that and make the case that you're using it in fair use. And whether you get a judge that understands copyright law or not is up to the wind. And whether you can afford to fucking even prosecute the case is up in the wind. So it doesn't leave you a whole lot of recourse.
It's like civil asset forfeiture, like we're guilty until proven innocent.
Yeah. And so the truth of the matter is we really have to make our content around that. Even though we talk a whole lot about pop culture and pop culture topics and movies and music and stuff, we've got to somehow do that without ever playing a sample of any of the stuff that we talk about. That's our weird little fucking tap dance. And you would think that you would want a vibrant example of that. You would want a lot of social critics out there giving their takes on movies and stuff. It just drives people to be interested in these films. And comedy acts and musicians. You know what I mean? It really is like giving them free fucking publicity, but they don't see it that way. BitChute, Minds, or Gab not played out for you guys? Are they not viable platforms? I know Styx uses this site. We've just been burned by these little small sites that pop up, these like fly-by-night places. Like I know BitChute has been around at least for a while, and Gab probably, but these little places, they just close up. And it's like we have this huge archive of stuff up for people to watch, and then all of a sudden it's gone and we have no place to put it. It's better to just hold that stuff back and wait until something stable comes along, or maybe just try and make other types of content around that. Because just loading all your crap up on that That doesn't guarantee that you're not going to get fucked with over there, and it doesn't guarantee that those things are going to be around next year. You know what I mean? If you got hundreds of things, it just doesn't work that way. Like the reason we used Vimeo is because like they'd been around for a long time, and they had an actual payment plan that a lot of people were using. Paul, why is gas expensive? You want the long answer or the short answer? The long answer is because the very exploitative, destructive companies that extract, refine, and ship oil all want more money. And so, in times of perceived political strife or geopolitical strife, they will often just arbitrarily raise the price of gas in anticipation of a shortage or a possible shortage. The short answer is because oil companies are pieces of shit.
Yeah, record profits and shit. It's like
It's a dwindling resource in the sense that we've hit peak oil, but it's not like we're gonna run out of oil tomorrow. There's still plenty of oil.
there's still untapped things.
Yep.
Blaming it on the Ukrainian thing is so dumb because we barely use any Russian oil. That's like Europe's thing.
Yeah. Well, that's some of the like excuses that are used by these companies, though. The disruption of supply from and between Europe and Russia has caused, problems across the company. We've got to raise the price of oil to compensate for those problems. So, whatever.
Full of shit is what they are.
Yes. They are full of shit.
The only thing that like made a little bit of sense is like that one Chevron refinery was on strike, and we're like, oh, that's why Chevron's more expensive than the one across the way.
When we were traveling, yeah.
That was just one refinery that probably only affected the West Coast.
Probably. Oil prices are higher because a lot of people drove less last year and they're trying to make up for it. That's probably part of it. Mm-hmm. They're trying to recoup some of the money that they lost during COVID. For sure. Oh my God, yeah. California gas prices are ridiculous. And I've read stories that say that those types of prices are going to come to other states this summer. Because a lot of people are going to be traveling. By the way, COVID is still out of control. Mm-hmm. Like nobody ever talks about it, but we've just all decided to pretend it's not happening. But COVID is still fucking completely out of control.
Yep. I think it's on like a downslope now, but it hasn't been for like the past few months.
Yeah.
It'll probably do the same thing where it's like maybe it'll be on a down slope through the summer, but then when winter comes, it'll tick right back up.
Who knows? Who knows? I'm gonna go get myself something to grab. Wow, be right back.
They asked me for your secrets. The
My
secret is Paul is awesome.
Oh,
And
shit.
he's sweet. And cute.
There you go. Now you know all my secrets. That's the stuff. That is the stuff.
Oh yeah, and you have a tail, but it's not a big secret, is it?
Shh. Telling people about my tail. It's gonna start wagging. Then what's that Pain is Self-Chosen song called? I'm just gonna have Amelia play it on her fucking phone.
Yeah.
Copyright be damned. Just play it loud enough for me to hear.
Yeah.
And if I get a copyright, then so be it.
What's it called?
I don't know. I just asked them what that's. What's that song called? Come on, somebody has to know. River of Deceit. The river of deceit flows down.
It's Alice in Chains, right?
It's Mad Season.
Mad
I think.
Season. River of Deceit.
It's Lane Staley vocals.
Is that loud enough?
Nope, turn it up. Crank it. It'll be just. That's fine. This is a really good song. One of the only songs that Lane Staley sings in that I can tolerate. Maybe if I keep talking, it won't trigger a fucking copyright violation. Can't remember who lodged that in my head. Yeah, Mad Sea. It was like a super band, right? I think it had like what's his name in it? I can't remember the other guy's name. See on the backup channel, man. I don't know. All right, we'll see.
It might just be like copy or ad sharing or something. Sometimes it's just as simple as that.
I mean, yeah, that's true. It depends.
They do like ad sharing or like this can't be monetized. Or
Yeah.
sometimes they block it in like 3 random countries or something. So it really fucking depends.
Yeah, that's true.
There's one thing you guys recorded that's like it's blocked in Korea, and who gives a fuck about your like 20 Korean fans?
I don't know if we even have a Korean fan, so I mean, it sucks for them, but you know, you live in Korea, so what do you want us to do? Do I wear Crocs? No. I wear sneakers and slippers.
Mostly no shoes, though.
Yeah, I'm a barefoot Okie. Geo-blocking is something I will never understand the mentality behind.
I think it's just complex legal agreements with the record companies and shit.
Yeah.
Lawyeries.
Yep. I bought new boots today for $170.
That's actually pretty typical for boots.
Is it?
My dad bought boots once, and he took me along with him. That's about how much he paid for boots.
What kind of boots?
Like, like leather motorcycle boots.
Oh. Yeah. I think my Timberlands were like $100.
Yeah, like a good pair of boots. That's pretty typical.
I didn't buy those Tims though. Scotty bought those for me.
What I don't understand is like the fucking like $400 heels and shit. You know that shit ain't built to last.
Oh yeah, the like Louboutin or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they don't look any different to me than like
Just normal stripper heels
yeah,
and shit.
normal heels. Yeah.
Dude, that gives me flashbacks to Amazon when I had to pick them shoes.
Yeah. That must have sucked.
The boots were always in these giant boxes. They were always on like the very tippy top shelf.
Of course. Yeah, it was Scotty bought me boots because when we came to meet him in Seattle, my girlfriend at the time, Ashley, and I, we were just barely making it. And both of us had an old pair of shoes on, and he just saw them like flapping around, you know what I mean? Like holes in them and shit, and he just couldn't hang. So he just like, after we met for one of the shows, he was just like, hey, let's go to the mall real quick. And he took us straight to the Timberland thing, and he's like, just pick out a pair of boots. And it was very nice of him. It was very kind of him. Because yeah, I definitely could not have afforded to get a nice pair of boots like that. And I wore those a lot in Seattle. You need like a good pair of waterproof boots to get around. So yeah.
Well, the stream didn't die.
No,
So it'll probably just be a late claim then.
we'll see. Who cares, man?
I know from what Scotty says, like if it does get a takedown like that, it doesn't affect your super chat, so
Yeah, it's true.
it's not like you're raking in the ad revenue on these.
Most of them are not suitable or like limited or whatever.
Yeah.
My channel is firmly on the same list that the DFF channel is on for sure, and I'm pretty sure that TJ's channel is on that very same list.
I think he has a little more luck.
Well, he's got a little more subscriber base, so he's
Yeah.
getting a little more money, but it's still he's not fully monetized on that channel.
Yeah, that's why you should join the Patreon.
I mean, that really is the lifeblood of our content. If not for people, chipping in, there'd just be no way that the three of us could do this show.
Yeah, it'd be like fucking chump change. You'd have to all have second jobs and shit.
There'd just be no way it could be what it is.
But yeah, they're getting episodes 5 through 8 of season 2 of Dank D&D tomorrow.
Nice.
And your Highdeology is tomorrow too.
Oh, cool. That'll be fun. Gotta pick out a movie.
Oh, I did test that Tales of the Crypt thing, and it did work.
Neat. We can watch Tales from the Crypt. That's really cool. It's so weird to me that HBO wouldn't.
I think the only thing I had to do is I had to mute the intro song or something on it.
Mute the intro. Oh yeah, you skip through the intro.
Yeah, well, I just went in and muted it on my upload or whatever, so.
Yeah, you can just skip that.
I think everyone knows what the music is, and if they don't, they can go listen to it later or whatever.
Yeah. Trying to enjoy these nice, cool evenings because I know it's not going to be this way for long.
Yeah. tested a Twilight Zone episode too, so you could watch those two tomorrow if you want.
Cool. Maybe we'll try it. We'll see. We'll watch some of my favorite. I'll go find my favorite episodes of Tales from the Crypt. We'll watch a few of those. Your thoughts on Alia in the Lynch Dune? And what are you looking for in Villeneuve's Dune movies, considering her character? Alia is a very strange character, especially given the later parts of the books. But she's what's called in the Dune universe, she's preborn. So she was in her mother's womb when her mother took a huge dose of the bile of a sandworm, the water of life. And because her mother did this while she was in utero, she was infused with the memories of every woman that's ever lived, basically. She has the genetic memory of every woman that's ever lived. And she was born with all the knowledge of a Bene Gesserit. So she's, even though, you know, in the Dune books, by the end of the Dune, the first novel, she's a toddler basically. But she's a toddler that speaks. And she still has like the high pitched voice that you would expect out of a toddler, but she speaks like a grown up, like a not just a grown up, but like an incredibly wise, incredibly infinitesimally smart person. Whatever. And yeah, I don't really know how you do that.
I just hope they don't do some CGI bullshit on her.
In the Lynch Dune, they hired a little girl.
Yeah.
And then they hired somebody to do the actual voice.
Yeah.
And then they kind of had her mouth the words to the best of her ability. They shot her a lot from the side and behind. There's this great shot in the Lynch Dune after she, spoiler alert, kills the Baron Harkonnen. She pays for that, by the way, in the books, because she's eventually taken over by him. But anyway, that's a whole different ball of wax. But yeah, there's that great shot in the Lynch Dune after she shoots him, where she's standing there laughing, and it's just a really striking shot to see this little child with a bloody knife. But yeah, I don't know. I hope Lynch does something similar. I hope he gets a real child and not like some kind of CGI child. They could even like age her up a little bit, you know what I mean? Make her like maybe not a toddler by the end, make her grow up a little faster or whatever, so she's like 10 or 11, if, you know. I would be fine with them doing that if they can't find like an age appropriate person that can pull it off. Or they don't think it looks, but I really think the Lynch Dune handled it Alia really well. She's kind of fast forwarded over a lot because the Lynch Dune is very truncated. And so you don't get to really see much of her, and I think it's probably a conscious choice because it was probably very fiddly to get the shots of her to look right. And if you watch the Lynch Dune, the lip sync is way off. You know what I mean? They really tried to get the little kid to exaggerate what they were saying so that they could fit the track over it. And it doesn't look great. But it also works. Like, aesthetically, it works. She looks the part, and she's not in enough of it to where it really sticks out like a sore thumb.
It's like a spaghetti western.
Yeah, for sure. Very much so. She's like one spaghetti western character in a movie of, you know, people that can actually act.
Yeah. you say your favorite child actor is? Like, movie?
I don't know. It's so tough because oftentimes they're really not all that great. I think Haley Joel Osment was a pretty good child actor,
Yeah.
but I don't know. That's just tough to say.
It really depends on the director, I think.
Yeah, and the role and all of that.
You gotta corral them kids.
What's her face from that vampire movie? Oh yeah, Kirsten Dunst was a child actor, and she was pretty good. She's really good in Interview with a Vampire. So, Drew Barrymore, yeah. River Phoenix, good answers. Yeah. Leo was a good child actor as well. He's in a fucked up movie called The Basketball Diaries when he was 13 or something. It's a great movie, but it's pretty fucked up. Sean Astin from the Goonies. Now, the 80s had quite a few like child actors that were pretty good. The Coreys were both pretty good. Corey Feldman and Corey Haim. Sean Astin and the Goonies. Like, the whole cast of the Goonies was real good. Kid who played Bill Denborough. Well, that was a fucking, what's his name? Wesley Crusher. The guy that played Wesley Crusher. And Elijah Wood in North? No. Dakota Fanning and Uptown Girls with Brittany Murphy. I don't think I've seen that in a long time. Will Wheaton, yeah. That was Will Wheaton. You know, that's another one where the whole cast was pretty good.
Reminds me of when we watched Children of the Corn recently.
Oh God, yeah.
It's like the worst ending of a horror movie ever.
You're right. It really, like, it's really a bad movie start to finish, and it's got a lot of bad child actors in it, and then one that's like not even a child.
Like an adult with like some
has that
deformity or whatever.
Ehlers-Danlos syndrome or whatever that makes them like
Tiny.
never age.
And the monster reveal is just the dumbest shit
It's
ever.
the worst. It's the absolute worst. But yeah, I feel like the '80s had a pretty good crop of child actors. I guess you could count Molly Ringwald because she was really young for Breakfast Club. I remember that coming up in like one of the documentaries that I saw about it because she was playing a high school girl, but she was like 13 or something, like barely a high school girl herself, and they made her kind of sexy in that movie. Like, she's supposed to be sexy, and she remembered like it being I remember seeing a thing saying that like she was uncomfortable with like some of the stuff they asked her to do in the movie. I mean, there's nothing like explicit. The popular chick, yeah. Molly Ringwald. Judy Garland was a child actress as well.
So, it's definitely, there's capable children out there. It's just a matter of who for all, yeah.
And unfortunately, child actor plus Hollywood often, if you listen to the people after they grow up, often means abuse. Like, they're either exposed to drugs at an early age, like River Phoenix was, or sex, or both. and they end up fucked up at the end of it. I think both the Coreys were allegedly molested, and Corey Haim killed himself. Edward Furlong went through problems later in his life. Yeah, I mean, I know he struggled with drugs and shit. Ron Howard managed to avoid it. Yeah, Ron Howard managed to avoid all of that and then grow up and become a director, which was kind of cool.
Was it just like a documentary you watched about child actors in general?
There's this really crazy one called An Open Secret that's about child actors and the cycle of abuse in Hollywood, and it covers very closely this like network that was set up. There was like this cable network that was set up, and it was meant for like teens and tweens. And it was like a Nickelodeon, but not, you know. And they had all these like teen comedy dramas, like I remember, I think one of them was called like Royal Blue or something like that, and it was like about this kid who's poor, and all of a sudden he gets sent to live with his cousins who are rich. And the show was filmed at one of the producers' houses, and the stories that the kids that were in it, they're not kids anymore, they're grown-ass men now, there was just like drug orgies and parties, and they were being molested and the whole nine. So this whole like network was basically set up so that a group of predators could have a fresh crop of kids all the fucking time coming in and out. And you know, they could really like lure parents into letting their kids come and shoot because they go, hey, look, we're on this network, it's legitimate. I can't remember the name of the network, but yeah, that documentary is fucking nuts because it like implies that it's not just like a here and there type of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's a system. And it's been going on forever.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that Epstein thing. There's
Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
He's implicated in the documentary. Like a couple of the kids remember going to parties and Bryan Singer would be there, and they'd be off in the hot tub with him, and they'd be spiking drinks, and that dude's still making fucking movies. You know what I mean? So that's why I think it's called An Open Secret. It is an emotionally taxing documentary. It's not exactly it's not a casual watch or whatever, but I recommend you watch it because it blew me away. I think you can find it just online now too, because it ended up getting squelched. Like the people that were slated to release it never released. Like the production house never released it, and so the people that made it just put it up online.
Yeah, I think I was watching that other thing the other day, and it's like 1% of men are pedophiles, so that's a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, if those numbers are correct too. I mean, a lot of that shit has to rely on self-reporting.
Yeah.
And who self-reports.
And then, you know, like not all pedophiles are exclusive pedophiles, so there's plenty of dudes that have adult relationships but also have that urge or whatever.
Right. Sure. It's just any situation where you are taking kids out of the home and conglomerating them together under the tutelage of one or two or three people or whatever the fuck, there is this real opportunity for abuse, like systemic abuse within that industry. The truth of the matter is that most abuse happens right in the household or by someone that the family knows. It's not like but when you talk about like the Boy Scouts or church, any of these things where a lot of kids are sent and there's only one or two people in charge, and there's just such an opportunity for predators to capitalize on that.
haven't heard much come out of Ricky Gervais since he made that Golden Globes joke, dude.
Yeah. I mean, he's kind of lucky because he doesn't rely on Hollywood.
Yeah.
He's like popular in Britain, so he can kind of say what he wants. But yeah,
Yeah.
he hasn't. I haven't seen a big Ricky Gervais special or a movie
Yeah.
come out over here.
The world's just fucked up.
Oh yeah, very very much so. Unfortunate truth.
But it's also beautiful in a lot of ways, too.
Yep, that's true. How do you feel about Cube? I think it's an enigmatic film that doesn't get enough credit for having a story. I love Cube. I'm obsessed with Cube. I've been obsessed with Cube since the 90s. I brought it home as a rental, immediately told all my friends about it, had the ones that were movie buffs over so that we could watch it, and never stopped thinking about it. I've never stopped watching it. I watch it at least once a year. It's actually free on YouTube Movies if you've got YouTube Premium or whatever. I watched it not that long ago. I just like threw it on while I was gaming. I'm fucking obsessed with that movie, man. I love how compact it is. I love a chamber film. I love how smart it is to make a chamber film where it feels like everybody's moving, but they're never moving. You know, that's kind of the plot of the film. And the way it's shot, it's just a brilliant movie. I really don't think the acting is like top-notch AAA acting, but it's effective. The characters are all very fleshed out and interesting. The conflict is very fleshed out and interesting. The implications of how they got into this weird torture machine, very interesting. I just love that movie. I love it. Absolutely love it. I actually really like the second movie as well, Cube 2 Hypercube. It's not as good as Cube, but it's good. It's got its charms.
Yeah, we tried watching that rip-off Circle, and it just didn't hit the same way.
No. No, it didn't. I did like parts of that.
Yeah.
But overall, no.
It was just too many people at the beginning that it was hard to...
Yeah. Yeah, that's one of the things that I think makes that type of movie. Because there's another movie that really reminds me of the vibe. We watched it, Exam.
Yeah.
Another chamber film. It really gives me the same vibe as Cube does. It's just people trapped in a room together, and eventually it just kind of breaks down into chaos.
Yeah.
I really like that idea. And I'm always looking for movies like that. I really think that that chamber films in general are really underrepresented. And some of my favorite movies of all time are chamber movies.
12 Angry Men.
12 Angry Men is a great example. Both the original and the remake are both fantastic films, both chamber films. There's Rear Window.
Yep.
And Rope. There's a lot of really great chamber films, and I think they allow for like this real deep character examination and a feeling of real weight and circumstance and consequence that sometimes is like absent from movies whose scope is broader. You know, you get these cuts. It's like even in like a movie like Lord of the Rings, which is real masterful at cutting together the different parts of the story, there are little cuts where, you know, we're in the woods and now we're leaving the woods, and you didn't get to see hours and hours and hours of shit. But in the chamber film, oftentimes they're linear, real time. They're not always. Like Cube isn't. Cube has some time acceleration with like a little montage at one point.
Mm.
But yeah, I like that too. I like movies that take place in real time.
I think there's another name for it. I just can't remember what it's called.
Synchronistic movies.
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
I think. I don't know. Phone booth is another example of that. Yeah, that's true. 12 Cloverfield Lane. Not my favorite, but is pretty much a chamber film. There's that movie. It's not specifically a chamber film because there is some stuff that goes on outside of it, but 90% of the movie is a chamber film, and I actually really like the movie. Have you ever seen Devil? It really inspired one of my ideas, because I would love to do a chamber movie that takes, like, the movie that I have in mind is a chamber movie that takes place entirely inside of an elevator that people are trapped in together. It gets a little more supernatural than that. It's not just people trapped in an elevator, but it's just people trapped in a psychotic elevator that they can't get off of. And people come in but can't go out. They're kind of lost in this kind of Lovecraftian horror, where the real enemy is not the elevator, it's the other people in the elevator. People start to break down, and so that's this idea that I've had floating for a long time, and that's basically what Devil is. It's people are trapped in an elevator that's like stalled in a building, and one person in the elevator is the devil. And the lights keep going out and people end up dead, and nobody knows who's doing it, and everybody's accusing everybody else, and there's these few like interludes where a cop from the outside is trying to help them, and kind of comes to realize what's going on is supernatural or whatever. So it's not technically a chamber film because it has some outside elements, but most of that movie takes place right there in the elevator. I really like that movie. I think that movie's pretty good. But I want to do one where you're never really outside the elevator. Only briefly as you watch people walk into it. Because one of the peculiarities of this supernatural elevator that I think of is that when you're getting on it, you can't see anybody that's in it. It's like a normal elevator. And it's all over the world, too. It can be any elevator. And so the people that eventually end up on it are people from all different walks of life and from all different parts of the world, stuck on this elevator together. Consider Krampus to be a chamber movie? It's kind of like a Whole House. Have you seen Harsh Times with Christian Bale? Great flick. If you haven't seen it, I have not. At least I don't remember it if I have.
Yeah, chamber film really needs to be like more claustrophobic than a Whole House, I think.
It needs to be one room.
Yeah.
Or a contiguous shot. Like, I love how Rope.
Yeah, like it's almost a Whole House, but it's one shot.
It's one shot, one unbroken shot from start to finish as they walk from room to room. So there's the kitchen and the living room basically in the movie. One of my favorite chamber films of all time is another movie that I just can't watch enough, and I can't get enough of watching, called Pontypool. And it's kind of a zombie movie, but told in a very, very focused way. It doesn't focus on the entire zombie outbreak or one person running around trying to escape the zombies. It focuses on a radio station in a little Canadian town where the zombie apocalypse begins. And the radio station is getting these ever more worrying and frightening reports from people who are calling into it. And they start to wonder, you know, are we being fucked with here? Is this real? There's this really great part of the movie where Grant Mazzy, the main character, disc jockey guy, has this like meltdown, and he's like, people are fucking with us. He's like, this is bullshit. This is some kind of fucking, we're being gaslit here. I don't believe it. And in the middle of this rant, while they're off the air, all of a sudden their air is cut, and this French announcement comes on, and they're in like a part that doesn't speak French naturally, and so they're like, what the fuck? And so they figure it out. They translate the message that broke into their airwaves, and it says, avoid all terms of affection, avoid speaking in the English language, do not translate and read this message. It's a great movie, man. It's a fantastic movie and really a great chamber film. So
yeah, it's not 100% because he's in that car, but in the very beginning.
yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be 100% to be a chamber movie. It's mostly takes place in that one room in the radio station, in the booth, the jock booth. Best chamber movie is Room 1408. You know, that movie is underappreciated, I think. It does not hold a candle to the short story it's based on. It's one of my favorite Stephen King short stories, 1408. And it's way scarier, the short story, in my opinion. But the movie itself is actually a play on Dante's Inferno. The book, not so much. The short story, not so much. The movie is kind of low-key a recreation of Dante's Inferno, where he enters into the first realm of hell, and then the second realm. He ends up at the bottom of hell, which is frozen. There's the watery hell that he goes through. And so I've seen a few little, video essays on it, and I noticed it myself the first time I watched it, that it felt like it seemed to adhere to that kind of spiraling hell, where there's like a level and each level is a little more hard to take than the one that came out before.
Doesn't really, I think we watched it together. It doesn't really stick with me like a lot of other Stephen King movies, though.
Yeah. Like I said, the movie's not as good as the book, and it's not one of the best Stephen King movies, but it is pretty good. It's got some moments in it that I really like.
Yeah, I don't remember hating it or nothing. It just doesn't stick.
Yeah. It's got a line that I think about a lot when I'm talking to younger people. Is that part where he like sees his dad in the wheelchair. His dad looks at him and says, "As you are, I was. As I am, you will be."
I haven't done a Stephen King movie in a hot minute.
Yeah, I mean, we've watched quite a few of them. We've got quite a few more, though. For sure.
I think Children of the Corn isn't a Stephen King one, is it?
Yes.
Oh, it is? Okay.
Yeah.
So that's, I think, the last one we watched then.
Yeah. Children of the Corn is a Stephen King, or at least based on a Stephen King story.
By and far the worst Stephen King movie we watched.
Is it, though? Maybe.
Even Thinner, I think that's...
Thinner's great.
Yeah. I think it gets knocked a lot, but it's really good.
Thinner's a very cool movie.
I mean, Pet Sematary 2 was better than you remembered it when we watched it together.
Yeah, Pet Sematary 2 was dope. That's not really a Stephen King movie, though. That's like a knockoff or whatever. He didn't write any of it. But yeah, based on a property of his, I guess. The Langoliers, bro. Oh my god. That story is pretty good. It's not particularly scary, but the story, The Langoliers, is pretty good. But it was like a made for TV miniseries back in like the 90s, I think. And it is awful, man. Oh my god, it's bad.
You haven't seen Christine or Cujo yet.
Yeah, I don't really like Cujo, man. Cujo is kind of a chamber film too.
Yeah.
But it's just hard to watch, man. Christine is fun. I don't know. I just haven't watched Cujo in a long time either. I was probably a kid last time I watched it. I just remember really hating it, like being real scared of it. Maybe I'll like it more as an adult. Yeah, someone mentioned The Mist. The Mist is a pretty good movie adaptation, for sure.
Not as good as the one with Christopher Walken in it, though. The
Which
president with the button.
Oh yeah, The Dead Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That one's probably my favorite.
That one is really good. That was a really good one for sure. Hello, Granite. Yeah.
I just love that actor as the president too.
Oh yeah. Martin Sheen.
Yeah. It's coke-addled Martin Sheen.
Yep.
Didn't he do that movie with Marlon Brando?
Yeah,
like have a heart attack from coke.
Yeah, he had like a minor heart attack on the set of Apocalypse Now. Because him and I can't remember his name. Another great actor. He played the villain in Speed. I always forget his name. But him and that actor were doing fucking reels of coke just the whole time. That production apparently was like just a shit show from start to finish. It's amazing that such a great movie came out of it. Like, fucking, I love that. I love the Marlon Brando component too, because they hire him, and he's supposed to be playing this like lean jungle fighter guy. This dude that's just like lost himself to his a more primitive way, and he's living in the jungle and shit. And he shows up like weighing 400 pounds, and they have to shoot him in the shadows because he's so fat. Dude, Marlon Brando, man, he's a treasure. Both him and Orson Welles, man.
Especially his last movie, dude, that fucking troll and shit.
That fucking CGI smile they had to put on his face. Because he fucking refused. He shows up for the last day of shooting. And he's laying on the bed like this beached whale. And all he has to do is like smile and nod at the fucking camera. And he's like, I'm not doing it. I'm not gonna smile, I'm not gonna nod. My character would not do it. This character would not smile in this scene. I will not do it. So he refused, so they just shot him laying there and then did a CGI smile. Oh, I fucking love Marlon Brando, man. He's great. I'm fucking legend, bro.
We were watching that Superman movie, and we're like, you know what? There's a lot of donut-y imagery.
There is, dude. He worked a lot of donuts into that movie, man. He wanted to be a green donut. They didn't let him be a green donut, but he worked a lot of donuts in. Man, I love that shit. I'm not doing it. And then there's like there's a documentary. I can't remember. I always forget the name of it. I think it's like Absolute Darkness or some shit. It's about the making of the island of Dr. Moreau and how he that's one of my favorite documentaries because that is a movie that should never have been made. It shouldn't exist. Everything that could go wrong on that movie went wrong. They hired a director that was too neurotic to handle a big Hollywood production. They hired the biggest assholes in the movie industry, Val Kilmer and Marlon Brando, to be in the same film. Those guys just were unworkable the entire movie. They were just like fighting against everything. Marlon Brando didn't show up when he was supposed to show up, so they had to shoot things out of sequence. And then when he did show up, he basically took over the shoot. He was like, I'm not dressing in this. They had a whole costume wardrobe for him and stuff. He's like, I'm not dressing in this. My character will not wear any of this. I will dress myself. And he comes onto set with his face painted completely white, like he's got like fucking like sunscreen
makeup
on or some shit. And he's in this big white dress with like a hat with a net hanging down over his face. And he just took over the whole fucking thing. He just like rewrote his whole part.
Took that little dude.
Yeah, it was like a little person, a dwarf that was on the set that was only in a little bit of it. And he was like, I want him. He will be in every scene that I'm in. He will be in every scene. I will not appear without the midget.
If you guys haven't watched that episode of DFF, man, Marlon Brando.
Yeah. He looked like Uncle Fester in drag. Yeah, he did. It was fucking nuts. But he hated the movie industry. Like he had such disdain for it that like he had achieved this legendary status, and he was just like, I'm not gonna make it easy on them. If they want me to do a movie, they're gonna pay me a fucking ton of money, and I'm gonna be a complete shit the whole time. I hate it. Oh man, who doesn't love Marlon Brando? How can you not love him? Christine had some brilliant practical effects. Do you know they installed hydraulics inside the car to dent the panels and then reverse the footage? Yeah. Yep. I remember seeing a making of Christine where they did that. They had like a hydraulic thing with a suction thing on the inside of the door, and they filmed it sucking a dent into the door, and then they like slowly reversed the film to make it look like she was healing, like Christine's healing herself. It's real neat. John Carpenter's disdain for the industry also rules. Now he just wants to make synthwave with his kid and play video games. He never has to do anything ever again. Dude, there's a Cronenberg movie coming out this week, I think, in the movies.
Yeah.
In Crimes of the Future, it's called. Directed, and it looks like it's got tons of Cronenberg practical effects in it. I was like, whoa. We maybe need to go see that.
I guess it came out today.
Oh, really? Cool. Oh, maybe we should go see that shit tomorrow.
Or Sunday. You got shit to do tomorrow. I guess you could do both.
What?
The patron Highdeology and
Yeah. It's not gonna take all day. But yeah, we'll figure it out. Anywho, I think I'm done. Thanks for chilling. See you next time. Bye.